Slumdog, amongst the war-torn liquor store, gun store, bodega like a general store where you could get you some raw or whatever you want, it's all yours. Fiends nodding off on the milk crates, DTs hiding out trying to build case. Repeat offenders selling cause their bill's late and they don't see another way, now that's an ill fate. Brother trying to make sure his appeal straight. Remember came back from Kuwait with a steel plate. Shit is real, even Steve Jobs died. These kids don't wanna idolize guys to Bill Gates. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, your bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you and who's on me? Huh? You and who's on me? You and who's on me? You and who's on me? Move calmly. For real, they pop pills and shoutin' YOLO now. On some don't look back shit and don't look down. Everybody wanna have a colder style. Rather be a cola pal than a Goma pal. That's that gangster mentality. People got it all crooked. Wanna be a real crime family. Ain't up on them Bin Ladens in the bushes, it's a damn shame. You still quoting Scarface. Cliché than the car chase. And if you saying that it's art for art's sake, then I'm just saying don't get caught counting cars, ace. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up in your Lex in front of the jet. Say me when even from there, something suspect. Show some respect, at least show some sense. You trying to connect, that's a stretch. You trying to contest. You and who's on me? Huh? You and who's on me? You and who's on me? Move calmly. Hey yo, EMP's the army. Better yet, the National Guard. Better yet, international czars. After the party is the anarchy. That ain't a plan hardly. Man, don't even start me. Know what I don't like? I won't lie. It's exploitation, trying to play both sides. Disenfranchise youth on the block. Think a revolution starts just by shooting the cop. You wanna ruin two families? That's what that is. So focus on the bullet, we forgot about the ballot. And when your hands are already bloody, what's a little more? In the struggle, hope there's not another civil war. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the world now. It's just the way of the world. Pulling up to Zuccotti in your Bugatti. You probably just don't get it, your bourgeoisie. You probably wasn't expecting this new posse. Trying to make a change, you and who's on me? Huh? You and who's on me? You and who's on me? You and who's on me? Move calmly.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
The thing about hip-hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip-hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you, and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there reach for you.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do, hip-hop is something you live.
So hip-hop didn't invent anything, but hip-hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces. And this episode is brought to you by
Peace and love, everybody. It's your man, Manny Faces. One time for you for checking in to Hip Hop Can Save America, the world's most enlightening and informative hip hop podcast in all the land. Live stream, part of an ecosystem. One time for you for tuning in and turning up with us tonight. It is Monday. We're here most Mondays, live, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the tube that is of you. And I've been gone for a couple of weeks. I was at the Ohio State University checking out the Hip-Hop Literacies Conference, so that took me off my game a little bit. You saw the thanks there in the beginning of the screen. My goal for next week is to add, we have several more supporters that are helping us out that have not been named on that montage, that opening montage. So I must thank our newest supporters. That includes the good folks at Hip Hop Musicals. It includes our good friend Jennifer M. It includes Red Summer from the National Hip Hop Museum out in Washington, D.C. And it includes our good friend Murray F. Murray F. If you know who I'm talking about. I didn't fully get permission to say thank you publicly, so I'm keeping it kind of cryptic. Cryptic's the word I'm looking for. In the chat, Fan Virgins, of course. What's up? Andrew Wang, as almost always, thank you. Both of y'all, actually, almost always rocking with me, and I appreciate that. Tonight, we're not going to banter too long. Andrew asked, was I holding up transcripts to the, manuscript of my book? No, no, I am not. You'll know. Everyone will know. Trust me. So just for those playing along at home, the book is in the middle of final proofs. Tentative published date is still April 22nd. I am still awaiting a pre-order link for those who want to pre-order the book, and also for those who want me to prove that it's really happening. So I'm just waiting for that, because I know I got to prove to people don't believe you really got a book coming out. But it's coming, so it'll be here soon. Shouts to Bob Knutson. I see you in the building. Thank you for checking in. Bob, you got some exciting political things happening around your way this week. Lots going on in your neck of the woods, man. So thank you for checking in. I know that there's a lot to be concerning yourself with over there in Wisco, but yet you choose to chill and pop in and say hi to us. So I appreciate that. The book is coming. The book is coming. I'm starting to really make a push for press appearances, media, outlets, try to be on some things and talk about it. If you happen to know anyone, if your cousin happens to be, I don't know, an anchor at CNN or whatever, coincidentally, whatever. Anyway, get me on one of these things. Hook me up. So I'll let you know more about the book as soon as I know more. It's coming. It's close. April 22nd release date. We'll have a link beforehand. I'm trying to do a couple of book talks, book appearances. Another thing that if you know anybody in your area and want to bring me out there, can put a couple dollars out to the cause. I'll come out and talk anywhere. So that's exciting. The book is called Hip Hop. If you're just new watching for the first time, the book is called Hip Hop Can Save America, Inspiration for the Nation from a Culture of Innovation. It's the name of the book. We're getting little teases rolling out, more to come. Again, I was at the Ohio State University last weekend or whatever, 2 weekends, whenever it was now, I'm losing track of time. But for the Hip Hop Literacies Conference, we told you about it. In fact, if you'd seen the interview that I did with Dr. Elaine Richardson, super dope. Shouts to her for running for many, many years. Now, this was the 10th Hip Hop Literacies Conference. So I don't know if you're watching this for the first time or you're a regular. If you're a regular, you know that there are hip-hop academic conferences. There are gatherings of like-minded folk who generally want to study hip-hop on a cultural level or on a sociological level or on some kind of hip-hop studies level. It also doesn't mean that we can't get down and do some performances. We can't get down and, expose ourselves to some really dope hip-hop. Met a really good duo at the conference called Mother Nature. Mother Nature, I think they're out of Chicago. I'm going to highlight them. I'm actually going to invite them onto the show. They do some really great work. They do youth workshops with schools. They actually have a sort of a year-long residency in public schools to be performance artists that are also running workshops and doing all kind of cool things. So they're really dope. And I saw them, kind of do their presentation and sort of a an example of what they do. Really dope. So Mother Nature, shout them out, look for them, pay attention to them. A lot of other folks that I ran into that I either knew, a lot of professors, a few practitioners. It was a really good place to be. I saw my sister. My sister lives nearby Ohio State, actually goes to Ohio State getting her doctorate. So I was able to like chill with family. It was a great time, good trip. And I recommend that if you see a gathering in your city, town, or hamlet that has to do with hip hop, don't think that because it's an academic conference, it's not for you. It's actually more important that you go as a hip hop fan, as someone who's watching this show, maybe someone who has some interest in hip hop and, intersectionality or interdisciplinary works, blah, blah, blah. You should go to these things. With that said, by the way, you see at the bottom, I thanked all the people who are supporting the show financially. It says become a sustaining member. That basically means that if you're a member, I can sustain this. So the more members, the better. And more it makes it so that I can sustain this work. A lot of money, effort, and time goes into this. And times are tough for creatives like myself. Times are tough for a bunch of people that rely on, I don't know, funds like from nonprofits or from government grants or from universities. So some of us work in those fields and don't actually have a job. Okay, so it does help. Obviously, I don't want you to sustain my life. That's up to me. But you can sustain me doing this because I could just go get a job and not do this anymore. We don't want that. You help make this happen. I'm just saying that if you like this, it's because you're making me do it by supporting me. And that makes me have to do it and do it with such pizzazz. So thank you for that. If you want to know more about conferences, I do invite you to sign up to the newsletter. It's at mannyfaces.substack.com. It's really at hiphopcansaveamerica.com/newsletter. And that's what I should put there because I don't want to like manify all this stuff. It's all at hiphopcansaveamerica.com. So if any link happens, if you see anything, if you hear something, you're like, wait, what? He has a live stream. He has a podcast. He has a newsletter. There's a Discord server. There's a subreddit. What? Where do I go? Just remember hiphopcansaveamerica.com. There is a really good newsletter that we have there. Oh yeah, that's right. Jamila Meter performed. Andrew Wang. We had some friends of friends in the house, as it were, at Ohio State. There were performances again. People think academic conferences and hip hop don't go hand in hand, but no, we actually turned up, and there was an opening thing at like a lounge nearby. It was DJ. It was super dope. I have a card. I forget. I like to say names. Dang it! I didn't expect to really talk about it. Anyway, I'll make sure I shout them out. The point of the matter is that in this newsletter we have a great calendar listing. Me, I have a great calendar listing, and you'll see upcoming conferences. What I like to call interdisciplinary hip hop events. So a lot of times those are conferences or whatever symposia, right? Or just whatever, festivals, things like that, where there's usually panels or discussions or keynotes or workshops or, I said panels, like things like that. That's the kind of stuff we talk about. It's the only place in the world, in the known universe, in fact, where you'll find a hand-curated, hand-gathered, and collected with love in a basket with daisies, and I gently place them into this newsletter, and I assemble them with love, and I send them to your inbox for free. So you get notified about all the things, including the upcoming conferences, like the Hip-Hop Ed Conference, Words, Beats, and Life, which is happening this weekend, Fresh, Bold, and So Deaf Women in Hip-Hop Symposium in New York City. Also, I'll definitely put breaking competitions. The Kids Dance Battle National Championship is happening April 5th in Orlando. April 11th, which we're going to talk about just briefly before I get into my great talk tonight. My great talk tonight, by the way, with someone that's really dope and fascinating. As you saw, the topic of the night is hip-hop as a guide for city planning, with a new friend of mine, a new friend of the show, Miss Ivi Lewis. We're going to talk to her about hip-hop as city planning, urban planning, city planning, architecture, and hip-hop. What? Huh? Yeah, absolutely. It's another beautiful interdisciplinary focus area. And so, like I say, these interdisciplinary things where hip-hop is with something else that isn't necessarily entertainment based, we're going to try to feature that here. Coming up this So it's on the newsletter. It's free, and sometimes I'll write some words that will hopefully inspire you, some editorials or some manifestos, as I like to say. So please sign up for the newsletter. It's super important that we do so. Build up these numbers, build up the support on the newsletter tip. I give good stuff there. There's good information. It's very helpful. It's very valuable. You'll like it. The one I want to focus on are my good friends at the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. That's happening not this, but almost this. It's coming up April 11th. Registration is still open. You can go to hhyra.org, hhyra.org, and sign up. This is at Rutgers University in New Jersey, New Brunswick campus, not the Newark campus, the New Brunswick campus. You will find that this is a fascinating conference in that it's an academic conference, but it's run by, produced, all put together by the youth. And I say the youth, not like children, you know what I mean? But like undergrads, right? So it's usually run by undergrads. A lot of high school kids might also be appearing or presenting or part of it, performing perhaps, but use a lot of P's, a lot of alliteration there. Performing, participating, presenting. But the point of it is that you get to see young people focused on hip hop as more than just a genre of music, but as that social, movement, as something that has that ability to. Remember, it's Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. So those are like the main areas. And so you'll find presentations by young people using hip hop in inventive ways. And it really gives me, maybe it won't give you, but it really gives me a great feeling of hope for, our young folk are really taking this idea of, interdisciplinary hip hop as a way to help improve society and uplift humanity. And they're doing it. So you may think that the kids aren't going to be all right, but I think the kids are going to be all right. Proof of that is at the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. It's really great to come to if you're an educator, of course, if you're a hip hop participant, a fan, an artist, even if you hate hip hop and you're like, Manny, I don't know why I'm watching you. Something about your face fascinates me, but I hate the words that are coming out of your mouth. And I despise hip hop. Hip hop is nothing but a detriment to society. I've heard, there's obviously people that say this that I wouldn't expect to say this, but there's people that say this. They think that hip hop has nothing to offer. People that are, that used to love hip hop, used to be fans of hip hop, used to be involved in hip hop. Used to rock out like we all did to the jams and the clubs and fat laces and Kangols and Adidas suits and breakdancing or breaking or, banging on a table in the lunchroom, like who grew up and now they're jaded. They don't think that hip hop has any of the things that, we fell in love with it for, besides just the, trying to get girls or guys and try to look fly and, try to learn how to rap. Like seriously, all that cultural, counterculture, push back against the powers that be, hip hop still has that. And we talk about it here on the show, but the young people at the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference will show and prove to you. So please, if you're around New York, New Jersey, it's Friday, April 11th. It's only a half-day conference. Well, it's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Rutgers University. You can sign up for it. You got to get the registration in the next day or so. They're going to cut registrations off. They have to have like final numbers. So if you haven't done it, please do so. Andrew can't make it. He'll be presenting at Berkeley Able. Hey, that's really one of the few reasons that I'd let you get off the hook, man. Berkeley College of Music has a great conference every year called the Berkeley Able, and it has to deal with accessibility, and it's a great conference. Andrew's working on some great work, some interdisciplinary hip hop work as well. Andrew's a music teacher, as some of y'all might know, and is now doing some research in the field of hip hop and neuroscience and accessibility and all these things. So really great work happening there as well. So shouts to our friends at Berkeley. Shouts to, of course, our good homie Radar Ellis up at Berkeley. The late great Jarrett Scheel, who taught at Berkeley and who was a guest on this show many years ago before he passed. Berkeley is a great institution, and I appreciate them, and I hope they're doing well because institutions and educational institutions in particular, some of them aren't doing so well these days, but we're not going to get into that tonight. We will get into it, just not tonight. So all that being said, please subscribe to the newsletter. These are things you'll hear about in the newsletter. So if I don't do a show next Monday, I will. But if I don't, because sometimes I don't, you can get updates on the newsletter. If you want updates even fasterer, even more fasterer, like immediately, like you want to talk to people about this stuff now, this second. I don't want to wait till next show, Manny. I don't want to wait till a newsletter comes out. Well, come on down to our Discord server. Check it out. We have a whole Discord server now. It's chock full of stuff. Look at all the stuff we're talking about. All the cool conversations we're having here. Yeah, Tokyo Right. Shouts to Tokyo Right up at Berkeley. Long overdue, by the way, to have on the show, Andrew. Keep reminding me because I don't want to let that one go forever. Thank you for that. Look at the Discord server. It's so dope. So you can join us at the Discord server. Again, just go to hiphopcansaveamerica.com. Click on everything that you can click on, okay? And just do all the things. And then you'll be in our ecosystem. It's what I like to call the world's most enlightening, informative, and to be honest, the most important hip-hop media ecosystem anywhere. So, now I'm mad because this is going to be wrong. See my tonight thing on the bottom there? It says tonight's guest. I made a new one, but I didn't swap it out. So it's showing you the last one I did. And I don't like that. So I could have just not put it up. But I put it up just so I could change it. But I don't know where I put the new one. So we're doing this together, live.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live.
And because I want you to see it change. It's important to me. Where is it? I didn't do it. I probably didn't do it. Damn it. Anyway, on tonight's show, dang, I made it. I just didn't put it into the system here. Anyway, I digress. Tonight's show's really dope. We're going to have a talk with Ivi Lewis. Ivi Lewis is having, doing a series of classes in the New York City area. Again, I know sometimes this stuff is a little too New York centric or big city centric. So I apologize if if your neck of the woods doesn't have things like this, but it's still important to know about. The thing that she's doing is the smallest part of it. It's obviously what she's doing, the work she's doing is more important than the event. But I came across this. I thought it was interesting. Now, let me go to the bigger screen so you can read it. Nope. Yeah, there we go. That's not big enough. Let's do the big one. There we go. So classes, I saw this at the Abrams Art Center, which is in New York City. I came across this because I have my hip hop spy tentacles everywhere. Using hip hop as a guide to city planning. A class for ages 18 and up from April 2nd, tomorrow, or 2 days from now, to the 23rd in this year from 6 to 8 p.m. every Wednesday. So it's not like every day of the week. It's once a week for 2 hours on a Wednesday. It's a course. I'll read it. It says, since hip-hop's inception, its artists have crafted vivid depictions of life in urban communities through music. Using hip-hop as a guide to city planning will take a deep dive into the history of urban planning and how it influenced the creation of one of the most impactful cultures of all time. Learners will analyze hip-hop lyrical content, review case studies on music genre influence on social movements, and chat with guest speakers and artists on methods that they've taken to implement change in their communities. The course will be held in person at the Abrams Art Center. All courses will gather on Wednesday, April 30th for a culminating share-out. So this is part of the Abrams Art Center and the School of Making Thinking. Ivi Lewis, who we'll talk to in just a moment, who's a new friend and who I just absolutely love, energy and the work that she's doing. This may be, and I love this kind of stuff, especially if you're not familiar with these intersections that we talk about here all the time. Hip-hop and education, okay, I can see where that might work. Hip-hop and healthcare, mental health therapy, okay, sure, when you explain it to me, okay. Hip-hop and urban planning, hip-hop and city planning, wait. Hip-hop was formed because of city planning? I know it was formed in a city, but how was it formed by city planning? It's a fascinating intersection, all right? There are several people that are out there that do this kind of work, but I wanted to talk to Ivi about her angle and now teaching that so that it can inspire the next generation, to be honest, of folks that have that hip hop mindset, but are looking at fields to get into. And you'll find some real interesting parallels, which we'll talk about between hip hop and city planning and urban planning. Real quick about Ivy. Ivy Lewis is an activist, an educator, and a creative. She's from St. Louis, Missouri. Since her youth, she's always been dedicated. She's dedicated her free time to contributing to her community. That habit is carried over in her years of living in New York City. Today, you can find her packing bags in a local food pantry, conducting a read aloud with kindergartners, or advocating for residents as a board member in Brooklyn Community Board 16. As a recent Hunter College graduate, she has gained extensive experience in urban planning, community development, facilitation, and research. She looks forward to using her passion for community development and expertise in planning to be an asset to communities across the 5 boroughs, and I suspect beyond the 5 boroughs. I had a very fascinating talk. We're going to get into it. With that said, please stick around. At the end of the discussion, I'll remind you of a couple of important things. You might join late. You might be joining right now. You might join halfway. But she will ask of you a task, homework, that you'll be able to put in the chat. So towards the end of the talk, please contribute if you can. I'll give you a hint. Well, no, I'll let it play out. So again, my talk with Ivy Lewis about her upcoming classes starting on April 2nd. So if you're in New York or you know someone in New York, jump on this. It's $250 for the series of courses, which lasts pretty much the month of April, every Wednesday. But there's tuition assistance available. So if you know someone, try to work it. They can work with you. You might wonder, who is this for? Well, it's for ages 18 and up that might have an inkling that this is an interesting thing to get into. And to learn more about it, let's hear it from my new good friend, Miss Ivy Lewis, here on Hip Hop Can Save America with your man, your mellow, Manny Faces. Let's go. Well, shouts to you, Miss Ivy Lewis, the ex-cross-country runner. No one will know what that means, so we'll just keep it there. First of all, thank you for coming on, answering my invitation so quickly. I noticed that you got something coming up like in the near future, and I try to turn things around, and I'm not always very fast at it, so I wanted to make sure we got this up and out while it was still kind of ramping up. So just first of all, thank you for your time, and
thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's start with the now and the thing that's about to happen, just so we get it out of the way. People know about it. And, then we could talk a little bit about how you got here. What caught my eye was a class that you are facilitating in New York City from April 2nd to 23rd this year. A couple hours once a week at the Abrams Art Center. And it's called Using Hip Hop as a Guide to City Planning. Now, I know some things about using hip hop in innovative and, sometimes surprising to other people ways. So I know I got a little bit of a grasp of what this might entail. But I know a lot of people don't, and they might look at those things like they look at hip hop and a lot of things as not necessarily going together. So if you could, please give folks an idea of what a class or what hip hop as city planning even looks like or even is.
Yeah. So the thing about hip hop is that it emerged in a very interesting time in cities. So the Bronx, New York in particular was basically a war zone. It was neglected. It was unloved. It was, what's the word? Abandoned buildings everywhere, buildings crumbling here and there. And that was mainly before urban renewal. Urban renewal was a practice that cities were doing all over the country, where they were trying to get rid of slums and build these more modern looking buildings. And I guess it just took a little longer time for the Bronx to get that same treatment. And for obvious reasons, right? When you think about the Bronx, who do you think?
Who knows why? Yeah.
Right? Who knows why? But when you think about the Bronx, who do you think? You think about Black and brown people. So it was mostly neglected. And the most beautiful thing about Black and brown people is that we are resilient. And even in the midst of chaos, like the Bronx was dealing with, there were kids, teenagers who created a genre that influenced a lifetime up until this point. You know what I'm saying? This genre has only been around for 50 years. And it was teenagers that created this genre just because they wanted to have fun. They wanted to kick it. Some of them wanted to get, a couple of girls on them, because they knew how to put together a funk song and do a little break beat.
That's why some of us got into this thing. Just saying hypothetically.
To get a couple of girls. You know what I'm saying? So that's really all it took. It just took for people that want to create space and create community for themselves, because that wasn't given to them at all.
Right.
And,
Right.
and from my theory and from my opinion, and there's also other architects and urban planners who have the same theory, that if it wasn't for these terrible urban planning and architectural practices,
Right.
hip hop probably would have never existed. Probably, because hip hop came from a time where there was so much chaos and uncertainty, and these kids were able to come together and create the same. And so the reason why I think that city planners and architects and urbanists can use hip hop as a reference in their practice is because hip hop is urban. Hip hop is of the people. And we are creating buildings. We are designing cities for people. We're not trying to design pretty cities. What is a pretty building going to do for me? I need a community. I need a space. And hip hop is community. Hip hop is space that people have made for themselves. So let's use that and the elements that hip hop has to help us understand how we can create more efficient and better cities. You know, there are plenty of hip hop songs that we can listen to understand. And even the elements, graffiti was created because there were a lack of art programs in school.
That's
These
right.
kids, they were artists, literally. And you've probably seen it for yourself too, you know, spreads of artwork across subway cars. You know what I'm saying? These kids just needed a canvas. And it just so happened that a subway ended up being their canvas. Breakdancing came because these kids needed to be free. I can't imagine living in a war zone like the Bronx.
Right.
You know, if I'm hearing a beat and I'm feeling good, I'm ready to swing my legs and spin on my head too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that was a community within themselves where they built respect for each other, and they, you know, they had a conflict, they battled it out in that conflict, you know, just like that. So that's really what the class is about. The class is understanding the history of urban planning and how it connects to hip hop. And then we try to learn from hip hop and what we can gain from that to create more efficient and better cities. So I'm hoping that people can take that and be more equitable when it comes to the work that they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And who is the class aimed at? Like, who can attend these classes? Is it for school age adults, college people, anyone?
Really for anyone, really, but definitely for folks who are practicing architecture, practicing city planning, and anyone that's like in that field. So anyone in development, and of course hip hop lovers, because there's so much layered history in hip hop. And I know, to me, I want this to be a learning experience for all of us, even for me myself, because I'm just a 90s kid. I was born in the golden era of hip hop. So you know, but I don't know a lot of the details from the past. So it's really for anyone, but especially people who have a great understanding of hip hop and who have a great understanding of the built environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of thoughts. And first of all, it's a great class. It's running April 2nd to 23rd. It's a nominal fee for for tuition as it is. You have some tuition assistance available if needed. You know, people could check it out. I'll have the link. We'll have the thing. We'll do all the UTB things. So a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think that you bring up a great point in that it wasn't even a big bang, but the coalescing of all of that came before it, because hip hop obviously didn't just, come up one day like, hey, we're here. It's obviously an amalgamation of influences musically, culturally, ethnically, from going back, hundreds of years to, diasporic, influences, obviously, that just all kind of came together in the Bronx at this time. There were other things happening that were hip hop like, but the Bronx was kind of it. And then even at that time, these elements that you mentioned, graffiti, breaking, all these things still developed over time from that genesis. But I think that you really bring up a good point that a lot of folks, the socio-political machinations that were happening, Robert Moses, breaking up the Bronx,
definitely Rob,
like in a way, like a horribly, racist developer that created all these things. However, from this concrete grew this rose. But it's very even the design of I remember reading this somewhere. The design of the project buildings that Robert Moses put in was something that like came from France or some idea that he adapted. And so Robert Moses'
original idea.
right. But and he took all the beneficial aspects of that idea, stripped them away, and just made these tenement blocks.
And he did it wrong. So those high-rise buildings were supposed to be for offices.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
It wasn't supposed to be for people living in it. So that's the other T too.
Yeah. Well, so and all of these things and many more is created the conditions that from whence hip hop came. So it is an absolute integral part of the DNA of the genre, and then the culture, obviously, that spawned from it. I think, you bring up the great point that people don't realize how influential that was, how it probably couldn't have happened anywhere else. And again, if you didn't have all of these conditions, maybe wouldn't have happened sort of at all. So it's a brilliant angle to look at. When did you start like getting into this field, 90s baby, where you were like, I want to learn how cities are made, and when did you get that aha moment that, oh, this music and culture that I love is really can be tied in to this field that you were starting to look into?
Yeah. So let me see if I can make it really short, because it is. Oh, actually,
okay. There's a podcast that goes into it. It's like an audio drama, and I know the people that produced it. So yeah. So very cool.
Okay. So you're in that world. You know what's up. Okay,
I'm in all the worlds.
Yes, they since I've been there, they have elevated so much, and I'm so excited for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're working there. Cool.
So I was working there, and I was a tour educator there. So that's my facilitation experience. And people are wondering, like, do this girl know how to talk? I know how to talk, boo boo. But yeah, and clearly. So the biggest piece of the Wheatsville Heritage Center was it would not have existed if urban renewal happened. So urban renewal was in the process in the Brooklyn around that time in 1968. And the homes, like I said, they were from the 1860s. So these were old homes, and the city was in the process of taking them down. But the community knew how important these homes were historically, and they got together to prevent these homes from being torn down. Right. And they did this through historical, to make it a historical landmark. So they dug up artifacts with children at a local school, Boy Scouts, and they presented these artifacts to the Landmarks Commission and was able to get these homes saved. And now you can tour the homes and learn about the history of Wheatsville. But urban renewal almost got in the way of us seeing these beautiful homes. Right. And I just thought it was so impressive because, being a Black person in America, it can be so easy to get depressed from all the messed up stuff that happened to us. But then you hear stories like this that make you resilient. Like, we don't have to settle and take what the city gives us, what the government gives us. We can take things in our own hands. And Wheatsville was a great example of that. And so from there, I learned about what urban planning is and realized there's not a lot of people who look like me in urban planning. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Hunter College and learn about this. So that's another stamp of how I'm a New Yorker, because I went to a CUNY, right? Does that count?
That's right. Sounds to Hunter. Yeah, 100%.
Maybe that counts. I didn't go to a public school, but I went to a CUNY. So I'm
that's all right.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. So I started going to Hunter, and just like I mentioned, I observed that there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. I observed that a lot of the people who were studying this weren't from the cities. They were from suburbs. They were very distant and understanding city people. You know what I'm saying? City people, we're just different people. The way we operate, the way we go about things, and we always have a pure heart, but it's just different compared to someone who grew up in the privilege of growing up in the suburbs. You grow up with tree-lined streets and front yard and a backyard, compared to someone who the closest park to them is probably a mile away. Stuff like that. So I grew up. I grew up on Long Island, so I did have all of those things. My dad, however, grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and was a sociologist, and he was a sociology of urban. He studied urban studies. So the joke I make is that I knew what gentrification meant when I was 8, and it's funny because it's true. I know your dad did not play.
not one iota. So I knew all this stuff. But you're right. If you don't have that knowledge, you come up in the suburbs. We say we from New York, and they be like, you ain't from New York, you from Long Island. I get it, I understand, but also. Like I understand the difference, and not everyone does, and that's a valuable point. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
I mean, to add to that point, like literally, there's studies that show that the psyche of someone who grows up in an urban area, low income area, is completely different than someone who grows up in a high income area. You know what I'm saying? There's even life expectancy differences. I just read about a study that was done in Philly, actually. Yep. This is within miles apart, not a different city apart, but within miles apart. If you are in Kensington, Philadelphia, which is in the northern part of Philadelphia, your life expectancy can go up to 68, compared to Center City, Philly. Life expectancy is 88. So it's a
Wow.
20-year gap. And it's because
Yep.
those folks in Kensington live in the hood. And
Yep.
Kensington is definitely the hood compared
Yep.
to Center City, which is a little more cleaner.
Sure.
You got, it's more walkable. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, this would be the phenomenon that some refer to as weathering, I believe. It's where it just wears you down. Like there's a, maybe not the same study, but certainly I've talked with I don't know if it was Dr. Uche Blackstock or one of these kind of doctors fighting for equality and and civil rights in the healthcare system, and I believe the term is weathering, and it's just a phenomenon. You're right. It's like living with post-traumatic stress syndrome just by living, and it wears you down. I understand completely. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's all completely layered. But one thing, the reason I'm bringing this up too is that there's an architect. His name is Craig Wilkins, I believe. I hope I'm not saying his name incorrectly. He's from Chicago, but he practices primarily in Detroit, and he's a professor. He talks about how one thing I love about him is that he was talking about how architects and lawyers and doctors, they all kind of have the same journey in getting their license. You know what I'm saying? They go to school for an extensive amount of time. They have to get a certain amount of hours, take an exam, all of that. But doctors and lawyers, they have to have a certain standard to cause the least amount of harm in society. Sometimes lawyers do pro bono work. Sometimes doctors work in clinics that are, low paid clinics. But why aren't architects also given that same ideology of how they are also supposed to do something to cause the least amount of harm in society? Because mind you, the literally the building that I'm sitting in right now, the building that you're sitting in right now, is an idea of an architect. An architect designed it. We would not be in these buildings without an architect. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Your neighborhood would not look the way it looks without an urban planner. They have so much power. You just brought up Robert Moses. Even though he did not go to school as for urban planning, he was an urban planner. And he held so much power in putting all these highways and all these parks and all these bridges through New York. And a lot of that power that he held caused so much damage. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why the South Bronx, a multitude of children and adults suffer through asthma. You know what I'm saying? Because there are highways going all through the South Bronx. When it was a completely fine community-oriented place before they put those highways through. You know what I'm saying? So that's another reason why I feel like this course and just implementing hip-hop in general into planning and architecture is important, because it reminds us that it's about the people, and it's something that we owe to people. You get what I'm saying? So I tell people all the time, there's an Erykah Badu song called The Healer. And even though she's not a hip-hop artist, she's a hip-hop lover. You know what I'm saying?
She's hip-hop. Yeah, she's hip-hop adjacent.
She is hip-hop. Hip-hop adjacent. She's hip-hop.
She's hip-hop. Yeah. Actually, she used to spit. She used to rap. Erykah Badu started as a rapper.
Yep. But that makes sense, because I've seen her do poetry.
Apple or something like that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she's hip-hop.
Because I know she goes through with a lot of names. You know how she is. I know she did a lot of poetry, and I think she used to do poetry a lot in New York in the 90s.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, she was in that scene. I wouldn't be surprised. But I know she spit. Like, she either started as a rapper, was definitely had rap aspirations, and so she's as hip hop as it gets. Yeah. And in her song The Healer, she literally says hip hop is bigger than the government. It's literally bigger than anything, and it makes sense, because it's not only been influential here in America, it's been influential across the globe, where people can speak their minds and stand up for themselves and use it as a vessel to get a movement going. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, I'm gonna stop rambling, but basically it's, I just noticed that there were a lot of inequalities in urban planning, and it affects Black people the most. And hip hop to me is a way for people to get a movement going. Any movement that I can think about recently, hip hop has been woven in that in many different ways. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost as if hip hop could save America. Anyway, and then everyone gets mad at me. They'd be like, it could save the world too. I'm like, I know. Let me do this podcast, then we'll do that one. I own the domain name. I'm already on it.
Let's be honest. America America, come on, we are kind of the center of the world. If you want to be real,
you know,
but
I think
the girls are gonna get mad that I'm saying
no,
that.
no. This is how I say it. Very diplomatic. I say, you know, obviously we exported hip hop to the world, and the way we fix problems here could, you know, also help the rest of the world, as we, you know, tend to do. We
Well,
are
that
very
is
helpful.
true. It starts with the foundation.
Sure. However, there's also a lot of things that hip hop does overseas that we need to re-import back because we've lost sight of some of those things that they do well,
Yeah.
but it still comes from us, but they've, you know, smacked it, flipped it, rubbed it down and done it the right way. And then, you know, we need to bring it back over here sometimes. Part of that is this sort of thing. You know, we talk about political movements. We talk about, you know, hip hop as a vessel for, you know, protest. We do that here, but the idea, most people think, until they see Kendrick in the Super Bowl, they think, oh, finally, you know, hip hop is doing something, you know, social justice oriented or putting out a message. But many people fail to understand is that integrating hip hop into urban planning is social justice.
Yes.
Integrating hip hop into education or mental health therapy, all the intersections I talk about here and talk to people about, that's making up for, right, the failures of society as a whole by using the you know, and I say using, not abusing, you know, using in a positive way, you know, the power that hip hop that you touched upon, to bring people together, to bring ideas to fruition, to remix ideas, to say, here's a thing that exists that we can do better, but it's a radical idea. I mean, that's what hip hop's done from the beginning. So I always think that hip hop based thinkers are the ones that can come into a situation that, you know, traditionally has been this, but we might, well, what if we do this? Because, you know, we remix things and we're not supposed to do it that way. And so there's that innovation and ingenuity that happens just by default by people that think that way. And I love what you say about hip hop being like for the people, of the people, by the people. And folks, especially Black and brown folks who live in these urban areas that have been, you know, that have, you know, because of redlining, they're in and no greenery, they're in a heat, what's the word?
Urban heat. I think it's urban heat
like
index.
Heat sink. Like, it's like, right.
Well, basically, those neighborhoods are hotter than other neighborhoods, strictly because of redlining. Redlining is directly connected to that.
So I try to know some things. But
you do. You know your stuff.
The best part about that is, who do you want to help design a better city, right? You want urban planning, is other than the people who have lived in these conditions, don't want to see them recreated and have some ideas about what it's like to live under those conditions. You're right. Suburban folk don't know that. Sometimes people in other cities don't know that because they're not in the same, they don't have the same kind of, although every city has a hood and a spot where that kind of stuff exists. So I'm always thinking, like, why wouldn't you want to learn from the folks that, you know, come from those environments? Now, two things. Number one, you said not a lot of them look like, you know, like you, especially women, minority women. I think that it's like 3% or some ridiculously low number, of people in the architect field are like Black women, for example.
Yes, very low.
So there's two hindrances to that. Number one is, you know, America. Number two, though, is that you weren't turned on to this necessarily. You know, you stumbled upon this, like some, you know,
really,
right.
Yeah.
So I love the class because you're trying to say, okay, I need to introduce this idea to other people because it's not being brought to them. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, that actually is a very fair assessment. Yes, that's why I said it's open to everyone. But I definitely, for those who are already engaged in the work, I definitely want to have that conversation with them too.
Yeah.
Especially too, because unfortunately the class is a little pricey. But what I'm hoping is that this class can elevate to a point that I can talk to more people who stumbled upon it just like me, who are just in the community. They see something that's wrong and they want to make a change. Because I'm very privileged to be able to get a master's degree, but I don't think it's always necessary to do that in order to make a change in your community.
That's right. Robert Moses ain't had no master's degree.
Right? He just had some rich parents.
Fun fact, I don't have a degree at all, and I'm pretty all right.
Word.
So yeah. So I advocate for all that. I'm a son of a sociology professor. So, you know, obviously I rebelled against, you know, how that
you
goes.
You earned your time too, by the way.
That's right.
Like.
I'm an independent scholar out in these streets. But I think that's valuable. And just by, you know, being there and doing it yourself, you are, you know, being that representation that, you know, obviously, you know, you didn't see until you stumbled upon that sort of situation.
Yeah.
What, So talk about that industry wise. Have you gone to, conferences? I know that, and there's the Michael Ford and the Hip Hop Architecture Camp,
Yeah.
Sekou Cook, who wrote, a book about this as well.
Yeah.
There's other folks doing this. Are you seeing in the time that you've now kind of, made this not say a focus, but focused on this project and this class, have you seen overall industry wide, the influence of hip hop culture being more kind of understood or respected? B, generally speaking, folks that come from communities of color are realizing that this is a field that exists and they can get into, or is it still very, very, I don't say elitist, but very, tough to stumble upon?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question. I feel like the hip hop part of it is still not welcomed as much. Yeah. And I think it's because still architecture and urban planning is taken over a lot by older generations, and and those old school folks still are thinking about the Tupac and Biggie and how hip hop.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because even one time in class, I tried to drop it on one of my teachers in the history and theory class, and he was like, I'm like, no, but think about it, but it still took a minute to get it in him. But he was like, I don't know. But
that's the work, right? That's the part of the work. So we got to,
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We got to get these old people up out of here, right? I'm just joking. But when it comes to the diversity part, I do think it is starting to shift, especially, and I know I sound like an auntie when I say this, but I think social media is one of the biggest reasons why like the shift is coming, because a lot of people are I just been seeing it a lot on, I still call it Twitter. I see it a lot on Twitter. I don't call it X. But I see it a lot on Twitter, and I see it a lot on Instagram, where there are more urbanist, like, social media pages being made, and people talking about the built environment, and people being able to make those connections. Because a lot of people ask, oh, why is the hood like the hood? Why don't Black people have generational wealth? And it's like, well, Tulsa, or well, highways, people are able to make these connections. And so I feel like with that, with people understanding it, they're going to start drifting into the field and learning that its importance. Just like me, because I didn't know it existed. I had no clue what urban planning was. And then I learned about urban renewal, and that's when I got into the work. So I'm feeling positive, because I think that it's going to be more diversity in the field. And even when I just left, like the last class I was working with when I was in school, a lot of the young people there were diverse. Yeah. So I'm feeling resilient about that. Now, the hip hop part, I think it's still going to take some time to ease it in, because folks are old school, and we need to get them more open-minded. Because in a sense, architecture and planning is, in a way, a little closed-minded when you really want to be honest. Yeah. But I do think good changes are going to happen soon, because people are being more conscious about the purpose of designing cities. It's not about making a city look great. It's not about, it's really about people and how, so that's, hopefully I answer your question correctly.
Absolutely.
But
in fact, I think it actually inspires something else. Another thought is that great that they're, the social media presence, which I guess, you're right. I mean, there's going to be people out there that are amplifying that work there. And so people are finding about those issues, answer the questions like you did, like, why is it the way it is? And it may not lead them to architecture, but it might lead them to civic engagement. It might lead them to go into city council meetings and realize that someone votes on these plans, that these urban planners that ain't from this urban, environment are planning on our behalf. So I love that that's becoming, and I hope you're right, and I think you are, in that social media has that benefit.
I have a lot of hope in the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs, I mean, they're sensitive, but some of them know their stuff.
That's true. I wouldn't be doing a whole show like based on this if I didn't think there was some way that it could actually work. So yeah. And I have a Gen Alpha too, and she's whip smart.
Oh, you have a Gen Alpha. Oh,
I got a young baby girl faces. She's super famous. If you watch me for more than 3 things, you'll see her name or her face pop up. But yeah, I'm confident as well. I'm truly confident when we work like this to get these messages out, and that's what's important about it. So along those lines,
absolutely.
what do you do like personally to, obviously putting together this class, do you go and speak elsewhere? Do you attend these conferences? I guess there's, like conferences and such that happen. Are you going to be teaching more regularly? What are you doing to kind of help make that
That's the
happen?
hope. I
Yeah.
am hoping that this does receive a lot of positive responses, and then I can carry this on. But just regularly, I'm a volunteer. I love to work in communities. So I literally go to a pantry down the street from my house every Wednesday. I hang out with elementary school kids and do science experiences. If I can talk right, science experiments with them on Saturdays. And that's actually another reason why I got into the urban planning work, because when I moved up here, I was primarily alone. Like, I had a few friends from college, but none of my family was here. And I knew that volunteering would be a great way to keep my mental health up, because it's hard to be alone in a city like New York. And while I was volunteering, I got to meet real New Yorkers. No transplants from Ohio. I'm meeting real folks. And it made me fall in love with New York even more, because New Yorkers love New York. I mean, y'all love to complain about the mayor, you know what I'm saying? And to complain about the subways. And you just learn so much about the structure of the city. So all that being said, that is another way I still activate myself in the community, because I do it for free anytime. I also work alongside, I'm a big believer in small businesses. So I work alongside merchant associations and business improvement districts around New York City, because most of them work directly with small businesses. And in my opinion, small businesses is what make a city so great, and definitely New York. I'd rather get the pizza shop, Danny's Pizza Shop, has been around for over 50 years right here in my neighborhood, rather than Papa John's. You know what I'm saying? So that is how I'm doing the work. But the hope is that I get to, really take this curriculum up and be able to work along, other CUNYs or other schools around New York, or even nonprofits who just want to learn how they can integrate it into their curriculums and go from there.
I love it. The ingenuity in hip hop is endless, and when applied to any field or any discipline, I love it. Because people are like, well, can it make me a better plumber? And I'm like, let's talk about guerrilla advertising, because you need to get more clients. Like, there's anything you want, like, you can find a way to tie it into your business or your endeavor. I mean, the big ones, obviously, I talk about a lot: education, mental health therapy. Architecture is one of my favorite ones. That's why I mentioned those other names. Folks that I've been watching and reading about. I've gone to Sekou Cook had a good exhibition here in Atlanta a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, at one of the design museums here. So it laid out a lot of that stuff, and I was talking to people again who have no clue about this stuff. And once you just introduce these ideas, even to the old guard, as it were, of the architecture industry, some of them are going to be open to these ideas. So we need more folks, and that's why I love what you're doing. Taking it back real quick to this class, just to remind people, April 2nd to 23rd. It's coming up. It's if you're in the architecture field, if you're thinking about it, if you want to know more about this stuff, if you're a hip hop head that's like, hey, what can I do, that's interesting that I could tie my culture into, this is a great class. Tell me, it's Wednesdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Tell me what a class looks like, just one of the, several weeks. Like, what does it look like if I'm sitting there, just in practice?
So actually, I just chatted with a good friend of mine. She's a hip hop enthusiast. You love hip hop. You and her can chat for hours about hip hop and cadences and metaphors and all that. I call her a hip hop journalist, because she actually had a radio show and talked about hip hop throughout the show. She'll be joining me in the second class. In the second class, we'll be talking about the emergence of hip hop, how it came from funk, soul, and disco, and how there was a division of that. Because, the old school folks, they wanted to stick to their disco and wear their suits. But of course, the kids had their sportswear and like the breakdance. And there was a lot of division, even when it came to location. Because, most of the disco was happening in the city. A lot of the hip hop was happening in the Bronx. So talking about how different it is. And then going from the beginnings of hip hop, how it came from funk, soul, disco. It was about a party thing. And then the message comes. The song called The Message that comes, where the guy's talking about how his environment looks. It's broken glass everywhere, people pissing. He's about to lose his mind. You know what I'm saying? And so we're talking about the message and how the message itself changed hip hop into a thing where people can tell stories, where people can be more conscious about what they see and the message that they're sharing. So throughout that class, we'll be, giving this story, about hip hop and what it looks like in New York at the time, the children that are involved, and playing songs in between to give them a perspective. So, for example, when I talk about funk, soul, and disco, there's a great song by Stevie Wonder called "Living in the City," and Stevie Wonder is talking about what it's like to live in a city and how frustrating it is and how poor we are. And that's a great example of a song that talks about the built environment. And sorry, I'm like so excited. I'm just rambling. And
No, I love it. This is great.
And in that song is very influenced by hip hop. I can think about a few hip hop songs that have sampled it, that have used Stevie Wonder's cadence. So that's just an example. So we'll be talking about funk and soul. Then I'll play a few clips of that. You get what I'm saying? And moving forward into other eras of hip hop and music at the time. So that's a quick example.
I love it.
Of that class.
That's just another reason why, I'm not mad I left New York, but
I know, because the class is in person.
I know. I would come to your class. I absolutely would have came to your class. I absolutely would have come to this. So I'm going to tell people, I still got a lot of, I still got a lot of folk up there. Obviously, I ran Birthplace Magazine, which was an online publication that covered the hip hop scene in New York, Metro for over 10 years. I got a lot of people that still, tuned in and get turned up with. But I'm going to spread this back to them. But yeah, it's. First of all, your excitement is infectious, and I just want to come to the show now, to the class. But it's a brilliant way to really keep people engaged and keep them interested. To then obviously be able to make these connections. It's good stuff. Caught my eye immediately when I first came across it, so I definitely wanted to kick it with you.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate this conversation because, as I said, hip hop is bigger than the government, and people need to talk about it more. So I think it's great that you're keeping the conversation alive and doing the work.
I appreciate that appreciation. Couldn't do it if I didn't have brilliant folks like you to talk to or talk about. So anything you're doing in the future along these lines, please get back to me. We'll talk a million times if you want. And I'll spread information. I have a good newsletter. People can go to hiphopcansaveamerica.com/newsletter. Newsletter goes out every couple of weeks, and I'm always this will be in there. And I'm always posting, information like this, interdisciplinary hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you should know, because you're in New York, the Hip-Hop Ed Conference is coming to New York City.
Well,
it's in New York City. It's not coming there. It's always there. But it'll be in June. It's a gathering of hip hop educators from across the country that all come together, have the same kind of intersection, but with the education sphere. While I mentioned that to you, because you're kind of an educator, you are an educator.
Yeah, I would love to go.
You should go there too. But why I always tell people this is that just because it's hip hop and architecture, you don't have to be an architect to come to it. You're going to get this inspiration that, I see the connections you're making between hip hop and urban planning and city planning and, urban design, but I work in a different field, but I can see where the inspiration that now I could translate to my field. So if you're even if you're not in this field of architecture, I suggest you consider going to the class. Check out what you're doing, because again, that inspiration can be translated and should be translated to every other possible discipline that we have out here. That's how we're going to counter a lot of what's happening, recently, where they're shutting down a lot of programs, or they're doing things that are going to turn the effectiveness of what progress had been made, getting them into these fields, getting them into these institutions after all these years is now being wiped away. Well, just like it did in the Bronx, hip hop can find a way. And so that's why I really think this is super valuable right now for you to be doing this. And I wish you the best, and I will do anything I can to help amplify it.
Thank you.
So the newsletter is great. We'll put it in there for the newsletter folk. I'll get you signed up for the newsletter so that other things that are happening in the area, where you can come and spread this gospel to the folks of like mind, and also people, as I always say, peace to my lover. What I say? Neighbors, supporters, lovers, and haters. Because even the haters need to know about this.
The haters need to know.
They need to know the most sometimes. So very cool. Ivi Lewis, thank you. Is there anything else that people need to know about where they could find information about the class, about you? Don't be stalking her, but find out where you can be found online, all the end of the interview type stuff. Let them know.
Yeah. Well, quickly, I would love for people to holler at me and let me know if they know of any songs they love, any hip hop songs they love that talk about their community and the built environment.
I like that.
So please let me know. I've been listening to a lot of Mos Def in Gaza. So But if y'all
Okay.
know of anybody else, please let me know. And
Yeah.
then, yes, if you look up the School of Thinking Making, that is where you'll find my class. And holla at me. I need to do a website. I'm slipping, y'all, but this has inspired me to make a website, so then y'all can follow my website.
All right.
And you can also find me at IVI with an I. That is my Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much again.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. And like I said, I look forward to keeping up with your work and spreading it. And we'll cross paths if I come to town. I may have
Yeah,
I
please
got a little book.
holla.
I got a little book coming out. I mean, I'm just saying, like, this might be
Word.
happening. So I'm hoping to do a thing up in New York City. I'd love to invite you out. And in the
Yes, I would
meantime, in
definitely
between
come.
time, wish you best with this class and all your endeavors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, indeedy. There you have it. My talk with Ivi Lewis. Ivi Lewis will be doing the using hip hop as a guide to city planning class. I guess you call it a class. Hey, class sounds so formal, but it's a class. It's like every Wednesday from 6 to 8 from April 2nd to 23rd. Let's do the big screen in New York City. So it starts in 2 days. So I put this up in enough time. There's enough time. I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in there again. It's the Abrons Art Center. Abrons, ABRONS, artscenter.org. Like Braun, like LeBron James. Abrons Art Center. Nope, that's not it. That's the Weeksville. Shouts to my good family, TK Dutez, and Conscious had part of that, and the folks that put together the Weeksville. The reason why I knew what the Weeksville project was, which is actually an amazing Weeksville Center, an amazing like a historical site in Brooklyn. You should definitely check that out if you're in and around New York City. Check out the historical background to the Weeksville Center because they did a great sort of a drama, like a podcast drama, like a radio drama. You know what I mean? Like how they do back in the days, like it's like they're acting it out about Weeksville. So, of course, I listened because they're my family, and I wanted to hear their wonderful podcast project, which was awesome. I think it was called the Weeksville Project. I don't know offhand, but if you look up let's do it together. Weeksville Podcast. Bonfire Radio Theater Ensemble Podcast. The Weeksville Project. I got it right. So anyway, just an aside, a really great like the Weeksville is a really fascinating site. Again, historical, like Ivy talked about. You learned about early uh, efforts at urban planning, which would have disrupted and destroyed a historically black neighborhood, and the fight to preserve it, and the successful fight to preserve it. Again, Weeksville still stands to this day. And of course, my friends at Bonfire Radio, the Bonfire Radio Theater Ensemble, put together a great historical drama, not fictional. Well, I guess it was semi-fictional, but based on true stories, drama in the podcast form, which harkens back to the original old days of radio. Super dope. Anyway, so that all being said, check it out. Using hip hop as a guide to city planning. My talk with Ivi Lewis. If you're just tuning in at the end, please run it back, rewind, and come again so that you catch all of her insightful comments and commentary. I really do love that intersectional field of hip hop and architecture. Again, if that starts to tickle your fancy, if some of that was like, oh, that's really interesting, I never really thought about like looking at city planning from a hip hop point of view. There are many songs I put in the chat. Black Star Respiration comes to mind, when you talk about like people rhyming about the city or their city life or what it feels like. If you know me, I worked on the Newsbeat podcast for many years, and some of the reason why I know about redlining and heat islands, it was the word I was looking for, was island. So there's a heat island, certain neighborhoods that have been redlined. Now, redlining, if you know or you don't know, it was essentially the government forcing drawing a red line on a map around neighborhoods that they wouldn't sell houses to black folk, generally speaking, or immigrants or whatever. These neighborhoods that they would be kind of forced into because of exclusion. You couldn't buy into these other neighborhoods. They would be forced into these neighborhoods, are called redlined neighborhoods. They tend to be what you would now look at as lower income or the hood or whatever. This was by design. So throughout the years, these are apartments, these are low income housing, these are neighborhoods that don't have a lot. And because of that, there hasn't been a lot of basically urban design, amenities, trees, greenery. It's all apartment buildings with flat roofs and parking lots and sidewalks and no gardens. No, they took down all the trees to build, the tenements or the projects. And so not only do you have cramped conditions. Not only do you have areas of the city that might not be getting services and the same kind of funding and support in the school districts or in their, again, amenities and sanitation, whatever the case may be. You're getting slumlords, right? You're getting landlords that are, I know the term is weird now, but you know what I mean? Landlords who aren't taking care of their properties. And not only is all that happening, but you live in a place because of all these environmental issues that's hotter by many degrees than other neighborhoods. Well, living under more extreme heat conditions in an urban setting, sun reflecting off the asphalt, you get higher instances of, I don't want to say asthma or whatever, but there's definitely heat related ongoing health conditions that can be triggered or exacerbated by hot living conditions, which these families had been forced into by government orchestrated housing policies. So you do see that the city, any city, the way it's designed is to the detriment of very often black, brown, or poor citizens. As with anything else, the education system designed and executed to the detriment of black and brown and poor citizens. Again, healthcare, just name a system. That's why they call it systemic racism. And these are systemic issues because these systems are designed to the detriment of these folks. So if when we say hip hop can save America, we use hip hop mentality and mindset and mechanisms and modalities and methodologies, more alliteration for you, to solve some of these problems, it's going to happen from people who have been suffering under these conditions. They're the ones that know what it's like. They're the ones that know what's wrong. And they're the ones that are going to have the ingenuity to say, well, if I was in charge, this is how it would be. This is what I would do. This is how we would fix this thing. And if you do that, then your black, your brown, your poor communities can get uplifted. If you're building new cities, if you're building new developments, and those folks are part of the discussion, then you're going to get not just a city and an environment that's, benefits the few, but benefits the many. And again, they necessarily, being the few, don't want that. They don't want equity and equality and fairness in these things. They want to remain elitist and sheltered and protected. Well, that's part of the work to try and push back against. I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Push back against the oligarchy and the 99. We are the 99%. But that's part of it. This is part of what it takes, and it's going to take people like Ivi Lewis and Michael Ford and Sekou Cook and people who are pushing this particular industry where 3 to 6% of the industry are women of color or people of color. You can't have industries where there's no representation and expect that those industries are going to look out for you, right? But you don't know that you can get into these industries. Well, if nothing else, with intent and purpose and authenticity, attaching hip hop to it, to show you, to get people interested. Hey, by the way, the reason why hip hop happened is because of city development and urban planning and city planning. The reason why, these things happen, why there's no generational wealth in black communities is because of highways and Robert Moses and cutting through. And that happens in big cities across the country. Tie that into music, tie that into culture, and you'll get people interested in it. They tend to not do that. Architecture is a very sheltered field. So when I see folks like Ivi Lewis trying to break that barrier, I want to do all I can in my whatever capacity I have to help break that cycle. You can too. You can spread word about this show right now. I haven't been begging you and saying, I know you got to say it because I know y'all probably do it, but you got to be reminded. I do too. It's not your fault. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a comment. Share it. We're about to end for the night. Take the link, put it on your Facebook. Be like, yo, I just saw a great conversation. Y'all need to check this out. The easy thing you could do is to just share it and tell somebody about it. The next level up is to support at patreon.com/Manny Faces or hiphopcansaveamerica.com/ whatever. There's a button up top to donate. Our newsletter is filled with information like this. If you love this, if you felt, this is really interesting stuff, please sign up to the newsletter. It's at the bottom, mannyfaces.substack.com or at hiphopcansaveamerica.com. Just go to hiphopcansaveamerica.com and click on everything. Okay, you can follow me on Instagram and all that stuff. We have a Discord channel where we drop new music every Friday. We're having good discussions over there. Smart people talking about hip hop culture. It's building up. I want y'all in there. I want you talking. Let's keep it going. I want to have a safe space, a community space for people to talk about these things in between episodes and in between newsletters, outside of the muck and the nastiness that happens in the social media platforms. So we're on Discord. We have a community. It's a closed community, but you can invite people. So invite people to the Discord. If you're in the Discord, come through. That's it. I will be in Newark, New Jersey. I'll be in New Brunswick, New Jersey on the 11th, April 11th for the Hip Hop Youth and Research Activism Conference. We're also rocking that night, spinning. I'm DJing. I'm back on the ones and twos at Evelyn's in New Brunswick. Check out Evelyn's. My man Silent Night will be with me. We'll be hanging out and playing music and getting into some shenanigans. You can come shenanigan with us. Then the next day, Saturday, we'll be We'll be in, oh God, there's an open mic and art share, and it's in Highland Park. That's what I was trying to remember. Highland Park, New Jersey. So we'll be jerseyed out. There's an open mic and art share. And then we'll be rocking at a place called Mr. Pies. DJing again, classic hip hop, soul, and R&B from the old school, right? I'm just taking it back, comfortable music. Like everyone had a good time. We're going to relax. We're going to spin some music. We're going to eat some food at Mr. Pies, which is not a pizzeria. Not a pizzeria, but you can come through and eat and hang out and drink and chill with us. So definitely the 11th and 12th. For any information about me, those dates, I got to put on the calendar. So don't go right now. Like wait till the morning if you need to be reminded. MannyFaces.com. I have a website. All my stuff is there. Information about the book, Hip-Hop Can Save America, Inspiration for the Nation from a Culture of Innovation, coming out on April 22nd. More information about the book. As soon as the pre-order link is available, I'll tell all of y'all, but you can check mannyfaces.com for that. How to book me, how to contact me. I'm doing keynotes. I'm doing workshops, all based on the book and the idea that hip-hop can save America. So with all that being said, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Please tell a friend to tell a friend, tell a friend. I will be more diligent at coming at you every week. It's been a little crazy because I'm getting this book ready and I was traveling. So thank you for your patience. Thanks again to Ivi Lewis. Check her out at Ivy with an I on Instagram. It's IVI with an I, the letter I, on Instagram. And check out, once again, last time, just in case I need to be reminded, her Using Hip Hop as a Guide to City Planning classes start April 2nd, this Wednesday in New York City from 6 to 8 every Wednesday for the month of April. Check out that class. It's really incredible and insightful and innovative stuff. So that's it. I'm out of here until next week. If you have anything to contribute to the show, questions or suggestions, again, you can donate at patreon.com/mannyfaces, or you can go to hiphopcansaveamerica.com. You can listen to the audio versions of these podcasts. The live stream has me doing the banter before and after the interview. The live stream, the podcast is the audio feed, just has the interviews basically. So there's another option if you're not a normal YouTuber or you want to hear stuff, on the go. Podcast apps will have Hip Hop Can Save America as well. And our newsletter and all that stuff. So I'll see you next Monday here. Another good episode. I'm going to actually do an in-between. So between now and then, there'll probably be another interview drop. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. And just stay tuned. Got a lot of good stuff coming. The Discord is cool. Yeah, thank you, Bob. I'm glad the Discord's cool. We have some Discord friends from other servers. Shouts to my good friends at Uneffing the Republic. Shouts to my good friends at Culture Fix. So there's a community of communities on Discord. And it's like I said, it's a good safe space to come and discuss these things. I know that our friend just recently, or just the last few days, we had a multi-day conversation with our what's your handle on there? Pretty witty and what is it? Pretty witty and wise. Put up a question, just an interesting. Hey, what do y'all think about this kind of thing? And a bunch of us weighed in on it, and it's a safe place to do that, to have discussions about hip hop for people who are not familiar or are super familiar. It's a good place to be. So come check out our Discord. Come check out all our things. hiphopcansaveamerica.com. My name is Manny Faces. Until next time, wishing peace and love to you and yours. Oh, just want to give a quick, dang it. This is so stupid to do now. It'll be in the newsletter. Yeah, it'll be in the newsletter. But rest in peace to an MC from New York City, 90s MC that was super dope. Gemini, the gifted one, passed away recently. And also Young Scooter out in Atlanta, sadly passed away as well. I'm sure that there are some, perhaps lesser known but no less important figures in and around hip hop that may have, be going through things, or have had, we're getting older. So some of our elders are, getting up there in age. So if I missed some names, condolences to friends and fam of all of those who have been lost or injured. But those are two names that came up in the past week or so. And so I wanted to give, just say their names. And we will try to continue to give flowers to people who are doing amazing, incredible work while they are here. It's very important that we do that and not get caught up in the drama and the gossip and the clickbait and, oh my God, the nonsense and clickbait and wildness that's happening within the last 12 hours. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Oh my God. I'm just so glad we have us and don't have to just watch that stuff all the time. Tell your friends, tell some friends, we need y'all here. We're going to do some great work this year. And thanks. Peace and love to you and yours until we meet again. I'll be here next week, but I'll be around during the week as well. I need an outro to this show. I've said this for a year. I need an outro. I know of an outro. I'll give you this. Yeah, how about this?
Good work, Manny Faces.
Thanks. That's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got. All right, I'm going to leave. Bye. Good night. I got things to do. Bye.